मेरा क्वेश्चन वाज साहब से है कि आप एक प्राइवेट कंपनी के ओनर हैं, सीईओ हैं, और आप इतना
Bahaj.
प्रॉफिट कमा रहे हैं, तो क्या वजह है कि जो पीटीसीएल है वो उस तरह प्रॉफिट नहीं कमा रही थी, उसको हमें सेमी गवर्नमेंट पे लेकर जाना पड़ा है?
I think this question can go to the PTCL board of directors, but I think the good operator needs to compete on the quality and not on the prices, and so I think the price wars are not good for the operators, and the price wars are not good for the customers as well. So and price war, I mean that purely competing on prices. So the operator needs to provide a quality service, and for a better quality service you can charge a premium from the customer, and if you are charging a premium from the customer, so I think you can make good profit. The second, the comment was from the Mr. Haroon on the digital nomads, and he had a concern that in the very remote areas there is no broadband connectivity available, which is the essential for digital nomads concept. And I think he's right. There are many scenic areas and there are many tourist destinations in Pakistan where the fiber infrastructure is not available. And there are two, three reasons. I think one reason being the northern area and AJK. Uh, there is a kind of a monopoly by a government-owned organization, and the other operators are at disadvantage there, so they are kind of being discriminated. So I think this is an open secret that everybody knows. So this is one thing. And second thing is, I think there has to be satellite broadband available. PTA, I think, needs to come up with the progressive policies for Starlink and for other alternate services. So which means that those services can be available in the far-flung and remote areas.
Looking into the future, 5G, तो अब वो गवर्नमेंट तो वो नहीं कर रही, ऑक्शन नहीं कर रही, राइट? किस तरह से उस तरफ बढ़ें, 5G की तरफ बढ़ें? और आपने वो कोट किया 230 जो आरपू है कि जी रेवेन्यू कस्टमर पर मंथ, लेकिन चलें वो तो लो है, लेकिन ये हम सेंस करते हैं कि जो हमारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है वो डिग्रेड हो रहा है, क्योंकि उसमें ऐसा लगता है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं हो रही. तो सस्ता तो है, लेकिन कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है कि सस्ता लेकिन पुअर क्वालिटी. तो ये आपसे और मिस्टर आपसे रिगार्डिंग पॉलिसी, तो पंजाब ने बनाई, केपी ने बनाई, लेकिन मे बी अब वो टाइम आ गया है कि गवर्नमेंट के लिए वेट नहीं करना चाहिए. तो अगर जो टूरिस्ट कंपनीज़ हैं उनकी जैसे एसोसिएशन है, तो वो अपनी खुद पॉलिसी बना लें, अपनी स्ट्रेटजी बना लें और इम्प्लीमेंट करें. और ये सेल्फ रेगुलेटेड ये दूसरे सेक्टर्स में होता है. फॉर एग्जांपल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में ये है कि जी एसोसिएशन है, उन्होंने अपनी सेल्फ रेगुलेशन कर ली और स्ट्रेटजी भी बना ली. तो इसमें इस तरफ कुछ ट्रेंड है, इस तरह कुछ हो रहा है, एसोसिएशंस हैं, स्ट्रॉन्ग हैं, वो क्या कर रही हैं आजकल?
Thank you.
थैंक यू.
Yes, declining ARPUs are, I think, a serious concern for the operators and directly linked with the quality of service. So which means that the ARPU needs to be reasonable. I mean, they should not be the lowest, and they should not be the highest, but they should be the reasonable where the operators can make a profit on the return on the investment, and then they can have some surplus profit to reinvest in the infrastructure and for the growth and improving the quality of service. And I think that is critical for the growth of this sector. So yes, it is. So I mean, this has a pluses and this has the negative, because I mean, when the ARPUs goes down, the operators have less incentive to provide quality service.
How can we avoid monopolies and also encourage more businesses to come to existence when there is like a big competitor already in place in the business?
I think the operators need to focus on innovation, and they need to solve the customer problems before it happens. So this is where the world is moving right now, or the world has actually, the world has actually moved there. They need to solve the customer problem before the customer problem happens. So which means the customer doesn't face any problem, and if the customer is facing any problem, then the system is detecting the customer problem, and the system is automatically solving the customer problem before even the customer notices that. So this is where this is where the innovation comes in, this is where the improvement comes in, this is where the AI comes in, and this is where the lot of new technologies and the stuff has to come in.
मैंने 20 के प्रोग्राम के टाइम मैंने एक प्रोजेक्ट किया था, एक स्पॉट था सिलियाजा, यू माइट नो द नेम, वेरी फेमस प्लेस, पिकनिक स्पॉट इन बलूचिस्तान, स्पेशली जोब. वहाँ पर 3 इश्यूज़ थे जो मैंने आइडेंटिफाई किए थे. वो ये कि लैक ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड इंटरनेट सिग्नल इश्यूज़, और थर्ड जो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इशू था वो ये था कि वहाँ पर लोगों में ये व्यू नहीं था कि व्हाट इज़ टूरिज़्म, व्हाट इज़ टूरिस्ट व्यूज़. जो सियाती सोच था उनकी बहुत ज़्यादा कमी थी. और नंबर 2 ये था कि वहाँ पर जो इनोवेटिव स्टार्टअप थी उसकी बहुत ज़्यादा कमी थी. हाउ टू प्रोमोट इनोवेटिव स्टार्टअप्स with having natural tourist spots.
Zob and including Gwadar, you need an NOC from Interior Ministry and not from a provincial government. And it's very unfortunate because it just elongates the process of getting an NOC in the first place. So, when a tourist comes, a foreign tourist, it's very frustrating for them to actually be able to have a tourist visa and then to wait for 15 days, 20 days, or even 3 months to get a no objection certificate from the Ministry of Interior. So I think this is something that should be worked on and should be handed over to the provincial government. But, this is something that really needs to happen from top to bottom.
मेरा नाम मोहम्मद असलम है और मैं लॉ कर रहा हूँ. मेरा ताल्लुक एक्सपार्टा से है. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि एक्सपार्टा में 100 ऐसे स्पॉट्स हैं जहाँ पे टूरिस्ट आते हैं, लेकिन जो ही वहाँ पे टूरिस्ट आना शुरू हो जाते हैं तो वहाँ पर कोई ना कोई वाक़या हो जाता है, या तो वहाँ पर ब्लास्ट हो जाता है या सेक्टोरियल वायलेंस आ जाता है. सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि क्या इसके लिए ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के पर बेस्ड है या वहाँ पर स्टेट तरक्की या टूरिज्म नहीं चाहती?
There is a case study that we happened recently in the case of Chitral, where we have stakeholders, private sector stakeholders in our association from Chitral, who have involved the army officials to provide security in order for them to be able to execute tours. I don't know how sustainable that process is because it has just gotten initiated. But given the looming, security threats in FATA, this can be one of the approaches used to at least have security on board in order for you to be able to invite people.
Is it possible to craft some kind of a template, in terms of development of these tourism places, in terms of infrastructure, waste management, solid waste management, and building, tourist conveniences and stay places, ताकि वो वही उसी template पे ही हो. And I'm sure they are much more economical would be much more economical than these concrete structures, as well as more climate friendly and eco-friendly.
It's an excellent suggestion. I think for basic guiding principles, we definitely need a template. However, I also feel that Pakistan is very diverse in terms of landscape, in terms of communities and their acceptability in having tourists in their areas, in terms of regions opening up to tourism, and also in terms of accessibility, in terms of roads and internet and security. So we cannot have a one-size-fits-all model for the tourism sector in Pakistan, unfortunately. Why? Because if you look at Gilgit-Baltistan, there are some regions in GB which are highly developed in terms of infrastructure, Whereas you have some areas in Sindh and Balochistan which are unimaginable in terms of accessibility. So, yes, a guiding principle template would be lovely. However, at provincial level, since tourism is a provincial matter now, after 2010, we really need contextualized development schemes and local communities on board. Otherwise, we cannot promote sustainable tourism development in Pakistan. We cannot say that something that worked in Hunza would also work in Gwadar because the geography is different, people are different, their mindsets are different, their education levels are different. It's very challenging if we replicate the same model across Pakistan. It's a big country, really big country. So we need, contextualized approaches and intervention mechanisms.
प्रिसाइजली मैं पूछूंगा कि रिसेंटली हम अभी एस्टिमेट कर रहे हैं जीएमपी ऑफ पाकिस्तान, तो टूरिज्म सेक्टर में अली दिलवी साहब ने मुझे कहा था कि इंडिकेटर्स पाकिस्तान के पास नहीं है. अगर आप कुछ इंडिकेटर्स हमें दे दें या प्रोक्सीज दे दें तो आई विल इनकॉर्पोरेट देम इन आवर जीएमपी ऑफ पाकिस्तान. बंडल ऑफ थैंक्स.
We have some indicators provided by Trade Development Authority of Pakistan, which can be used as a guiding document to support our data. Unfortunately, we still don't have a strong R&D in terms of who and how and what actually contributes to our GDP by the tourism sector. And in this regard, we really need excellent R&D. Just like I mentioned in my presentation as well, you do know that there is at least some contribution. But what about the negative impact in terms of the invisible burden of tourism on Pakistan, where local communities don't have access to clean water and roads? How can we expect to actually invite tourists, because they would end up consuming more, and we already have limited resources, we are extremely vulnerable. So we really need to have that statistics on hand, so that we realize that we cannot just open up Pakistan as a tourist destination in an ad hoc way. We need to invest first on infrastructure, water and sanitation, before inviting and opening up Pakistan to an international audience.
डिजिटल नोमैड टूरिज्म का अभी मेरी वहाद साहब से डिस्कशन हो रही थी इस पे कि जिसमें इट्स नॉट लाइक लग्जूरियस टूरिज्म पर से. इसमें आप जो रिमोट वर्कर्स हैं, जो सिर्फ जिन्हें एक लैपटॉप चाहिए काम करने के लिए, उन्हें नेचुरल खूबसूरत जगहों पे बस ऐसी फैसिलिटीज़ दे देते हैं जो एसेंशियल हों, जो वहाँ पे उनके लिए अफोर्डेबल फूड का कमर्शियल अरेंजमेंट कर दिया जाता है, अफोर्डेबल रेजिडेंस का, छोटे छोटे पॉड्स या छोटे छोटे रूम्स विद सिंगल पर्सन अकोमोडेशन. एंड that serves the tourist sector, that serves local and international tourist sector, and that brings in a lot of revenue in terms of वो लोग जो अर्बनाइजेशन से तंग आके रूरल एरियाज़ में खूबसूरत जगहों पे जाके वहाँ काम करना चाहते. तो उसमें वहाद साहब से तो मेरी पहले डिस्कशन में यही रिक्वेस्ट थी कि ऐसी जगहों पे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की ज़रूरत है, तो वो पब्लिक सेक्टर एंड प्राइवेट सेक्टर ने मिलकर लेके जाना है. उसमें स्पेशली जो सबसे बड़ी रिक्वायरमेंट होती है वो है इंटरनेट की. अच्छा, ऑन दिस नोट एक और जो हमारा पाकिस्तान में यूथ के लिए, मेरे ऐसे लोगों के लिए, अभी जो हमारी जनरेशन है उसके लिए अपना घर बनाना भी एक अजाब है बेसिकली. सो बहुत से कंट्रीज़ में एक तो वहाँ पे RV पार्क्स होते हैं. बेसिकली आपने जो एक व्हीकल है जिसमें आपका रहने का बंदोबस्त है, आपको सरकार ने या प्राइवेट सेक्टर ने एक पार्क खूबसूरत सी जगह पे बना के दिया है, उसमें आपने अपनी गाड़ी पार्क करनी है, आपको इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, आपको वहाँ पे जो सैनिटेशन, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, वो पार्क वाले प्रोवाइड करते हैं अगेंस्ट अ वेरी रीजनेबल फ़ी. तो इससे हमारे हाउसिंग क्राइसिस को भी जो है एड्रेस किया जा सकेगा अमंग पीपल हु थिंक कि वो सारी उम्र रेंट ही देते रहेंगे, दे डोंट सी ऑन द होराइजन कि उनके लिए अपना घर ओन करना पॉसिबल हो. तो ओनिंग एन RV इज़ मच मोर रीजनेबल देन दैट. तो इस पर क्या कोई काम हो रहा है, इस पर काम करने का स्कोप है, इस पर आप लोगों के क्या व्यूज़ हैं, व्हाट डू यू थिंक कैन बी डन इन दिस रिगार्ड?
I think in addition to a very good speedy internet, we also need um, good security, because you would see that if, especially after COVID, a lot of young people from the US and from the EU have moved to Southeast Asia to work because they find it cheaper to work in these regions. They're mostly freelancers, they work online. However, when you look at their interviews, they feel that sense of safety and security and nobody bugging them again and again. Do you really think if we invite these people to live in our region, are we ready in terms of, providing that sense, not just physical security, that sense of security that sense of well-being for them to be able to live in Pakistan for a couple of years. Because even applying for an extension in your tourist visa for a foreign tourist in Pakistan is a mess. It takes a lot of time for their visas to, extend. So we really need to raise this question: if how can we make it easier for them to be able to live and work in Pakistan? Another question that was raised was about RV cars, which is a camping model where you just park your, make do house and you live there. Um, I think there is a media person, and I find his YouTube videos absolutely fascinating. His name is also Imran Khan. He owns a really good RV car, by the way, and it's amazing. And it's not difficult to manufacture it. However, we really need to ask this question. We cannot sit in a park with that sense of well being and safety, even in our own cities. Do you really think this is doable? Again, my question is infrastructure wise, sense of safety and well being wise, not being harassed and bugged by police, by random people. And I think if we are able to, provide that, I'm sure a lot of people would take it up as well. In regards to PATO, our own private sector association and our own policy formulation, unfortunately, on an everyday basis, we have a lot of crisis in terms of जी वीज़ा नहीं आई अभी तक टूरिस्ट की, हमारे टूरिस्ट वहाँ गए, उनको पुलिस ने, रेंजर्स ने रोक दिया, उनको उनके पास एनओसी नहीं है, hotels, I won't name them, charging in dollars. हालांकि in Pakistani, structure, you cannot charge the private sector in dollars. It's supposed to be paid in PKR. So every day for the private sector, this is their main bugging point every single day. How can we expect them to work on policy? Also, for the young people in Pakistan, who we think is the future, they would either go to an engineering field or be a chartered accountant or be a doctor. People who really don't have anything else to do in their lives enter this sector, which is extremely unfortunate. For policy interventions, you need highly educated people. You need economists. You need people who can think about it. When on an everyday hassle is about getting an NOC, getting through those police clearances, not being harassed, not being bugged, we cannot expect them to, bring about their own policy. So this is it's a big challenge for the private sector as well.
You mentioned about your taxation issues and your registration and your banking. Does the TDAP assist you or the Ministry of Tourism in any way, or it's an absolute barrier?
Well, no significant comment on that. They do have that intention of promoting budding entrepreneurs, but in terms of actually executing, executing their policies, executing their, support is not something that translates into action. So जैसे पाकिस्तान में जनरली होता है कि बातें बहुत होती हैं, काम कम होता है, अनफॉर्चुनेटली यहाँ भी कुछ ऐसा ही हमने फेस किया है. And it's high time that, we provide opportunities for budding entrepreneurs and not charge them the whole fee when they are exhibiting abroad. We paid the whole fees when we exhibited this year in ITB Berlin. And it's not fair. Young entrepreneurs should be exempted, or at least they should pay 50% of the total exhibition price. Also, when it comes to exhibiting Pakistan as a tourist destination globally, there's also a, एक हमें constraint भी नजर आता है between PTDC and TDAP. They both want to take ownership of international exhibitions. But you would be you won't be surprised to hear this, but our payments from Pakistan are made at the last minute. Somehow they get stuck at the state bank. Hawala hundi ke through payment hoti hai. And ownership nahi li jati in its true form. honestly, when you're exhibiting the country, PTDC and TDAP are the main stakeholders. They should work together, not against each other. वो चीज़ I think जिस दिन हल हो गई, we would be able to streamline the process, we would be able to give a voice to budding entrepreneurs, and we might see some change in the future. But for now, not really. They do intend to do something, but nothing has been done so far yet. So let's just hope and pray that one day it changes, inshallah.